Hey, what's up, YouTube? I'm Stephen Lights. I'm the owner and founder of Workforce 2080, and I want to sit here and I want to actually review one of these articles I read and came across that I thought was actually pretty interesting. So the New York Post and a lot of different news vehicles are actually picking up this viral video on TikTok and actually posting this and saying that this young lady posted videos of her paycheck stubs and said she was paid $0 and also 1 cent after just 6 weeks of work. So it was a little difficult to kind of understand all the semantics around it, but clearly you can see that the young lady was posting videos of her check stubs and kind of walking through them. So you can clearly see on this one she had one check that was for a penny, and the main title that she put under it was "Tip Your Servers." So I did a little bit of digging because I like to be able to look into this stuff too, just to see if it's legit. Because when I read into this, part of me starts saying, how could a person get paid that little? I understand that federal taxes have to come out of your paychecks every time you're paid. That's a legitimate thing. There's no way around it. There's no way of coughing around it, except if you're exempt from federal taxes. But that's just federal income taxes. We're not talking about Social Security and Medicare taxes. So to keep this short and simple, I pulled up her TikTok video and just started watching it because I started saying, is there a way that I can calculate this legitimately without, misconstruing what she's saying? And here I am just reading this, and it's like life of a server. This is 6 weeks of pay. Tip your servers. So the beginning of the video starts with her showing 8/30/2021, 9/13/2021, and 9/27/2021. So clearly, she is paid on a biweekly basis. So for the 6 weeks that she worked, she got three paychecks. So I was able to just pull this up and look at this, and she actually gave me some of the proof that I needed to be able to calculate this. And you don't need too much to really calculate something like this. So the good news is I at least know that she's paid biweekly, and I know that she's paid tipped employee pay, which in the state of Tennessee, the minimum cash wage that you have to pay somebody is $2.13 an hour. And obviously the person has to be paid minimum wage. So if for some reason their tips don't get them to $7.25 an hour, that employer can't take the tip credit of $5.12 an hour. So there is a cash wage that the employer is required to pay the employee by law, which is $2.13 an hour, and that's the minimum that they can pay them. They can always pay them more if they wanted to, of course, but chances are that's all the employer is going to pay, because why wouldn't you? If the person's getting tips, you can get $5.12 an hour, have to pay less, $5.12 less an hour, which is pretty good the last time I checked for a business owner. So what I went on ahead and did, I kind of did some mathematics here, because obviously I just wanted to see how legitimate this was. And look, the truth is this: I don't know what this young lady is claiming on her taxes. I don't know if she's claiming exempt on her taxes. I don't know if she's claiming, single and one by herself. So I had to make a lot of assumptions here because, again, there was not a lot of proof that was given to us besides tip your servers. That's the only proof we got, and we have the proof that says that she's at least paid biweekly. So the truth is you can take something like this and really start to break it down to see if it's a legitimate claim or not. Because I'm not here to call this girl out. I simply just want to provide realistic proof that, obviously she's paid this because she has actually been paid a lot in tips. And when the taxes are taken out and actually accumulated for saying, okay, well, you actually got paid this and this much is in your possession, but the employer paid you this little minuscule amount, which we'll call the cash wages, that part is actually what's going to be left to actually be taxed on, because it's kind of like the cash tips are in the person's possession. So it's kind of what we call in out in the payroll world. But I literally did this. I figured out that she was paid biweekly, and these are federal tax tables. This is kind of a little bit of a proof video, but also to prove to you that I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. This is an IRS form, and this is something we use in the payroll world to try and figure out federal taxes. So I've had people tell me before, why didn't I have federal taxes coming out of Paycheck? Well, it's usually pretty easy to find out what that is, because of course, you have to always look into that. So, those are the types of things you just got to be aware of. So, keeping it simple, I know that she's paid biweekly. So, I can at least take that and kind of back my way into it. And she's paid at least $2.13 an hour. So, I kind of did some simple math here, and I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet and just kind of walk you through what I did. So, I kind of made the assumption that she was paid 213 an hour for 80 hours. Okay. So 213 an hour for 80 hours, because when you're paid biweekly, 80 hours is a full-time employee. So she made $170.40, and we're going to just call this cash wages. All right. And then we'll call this other amount tips, or we're just going to say cash tips for this. So this 1068.49 is cash tips. So that's over the course of 2 weeks. So if you do the math on that, if you say, okay, she worked 10 days, so I take this amount and divide it by 10 days, basically she gets an average of $106.85 a day. That's probably low end for, servers. I don't know what the average tips are for servers. If you're at a really high end restaurant, chances are you might make more than that. If you're at a very low end restaurant that you might see, a few customers a day, that could be close. It could be close. But again, I'm just making general assumptions here. So this way we can at least answer the question of how is it, or is it possible for a person to get paid 1 penny? So you basically take these tables and you start filling in the numbers. So I'm kind of walking you through what I did, so this way you can see some legitimacy with this, and that the math is not just being pulled out of thin air. So I made this assumption that the total amount of wages that were paid to this person were her cash wages and her cash tips together. Add those together and you get her total wages. So with this federal tax table, this is automated payroll systems, and this is the percentage method. Most people in the working world have taxes taken out for federal income taxes, and it's calculated off of payroll systems. There's typically an electronic system that they're using. So I basically keyed that number into 1A. So 1A is actually this much. 1B is 26 pay periods. And what the form has you do is it has you multiply your number of pay frequencies by the amount that this person earned this paycheck, because it's going to calculate that every time. So like the next check she has, it's going to take the number right here, multiply it by 26, and it's going to figure out where she is in terms of her wages. So it gives you this nice big number all of a sudden, but there's more to it. So as we scroll down, it's going to ask us to, of course, fill in some information from, step 4 of the person's W-4. Now, again, I had to make a lot of assumptions about what she's claiming. And again, that's not me trying to pick on her. It's just me making general assumptions, not married, maybe doesn't have any kids. So I'm claiming single and one. And I don't know the semantics of her background or life, so I can't really make some of these legitimate assumptions to say that they're correct. So if I'm over assuming, apologies in advance. If you see this video, I am sorry in advance if I overgeneralize. But again, I'm just trying to show you that this is possible to calculate through just the use of documents that are online. So just making those general assumptions, I can say that I probably don't know the answer to these, because the truth is most times most people leave them blank to begin with. So just doing the simple items that are in here, it says, hey, if you're, filing single, if you're if you're filing married, filing jointly, then yes, you probably will have to put a number that's higher. But because I'm saying that she's filing single, I'm just choosing 8,600. So all they want us to do at this point is they just want us to subtract that number from this big number here, and we're left with this big mamma jamma still. So what we have to do then is we're left with this 2A section over here, and what they need us to do is to then use these percentage tables to actually start calculating this. So what you have to do is you have to go find that 2021 percentage method, and if she didn't check off the box to say, and there's a specific box here that says, hey, if there are only 2 jobs total, you may check this box, do the same on form. It's super complex. I don't want to go into too many semantics about it, but I can tell you most people don't check this box off to begin with because they don't know what it's for. So I just made the general assumption that she did not check that box off, and that she's going to fall under this section over here. So I'm assuming she's filing single or married, filing separately. So what you have to do is you have to take this number and you have to find where it falls in these columns. So it has to be at least, as this column says, at least this much, but less than this much. So once you find the column, you basically take this and you start working the math backwards. So you're saying, okay, well, if she falls in this category of 2A, well, we have to find out where she falls in that range. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in 13,900. And then, of course, we're going to see that we have the next column, which is 995. So I'm going to do 995. And the percentage is actually going to be 12%. So with that being said, we can go right back up above and we can get some of the answers here. So what they want for us to do in 2E is they want us to subtract line 2B from line 2A. So what we can do is we can say, okay, this minus this equals that, which that looks pretty close. And this is just general Excel, by the way. 2F is saying multiply this amount by the percentage that's located on the next column. So we take this number and multiply it by this. So just to make sure that we're doing that correct, it's taking the numbers right here and we're multiplying it by 12%, which is correct. So we're getting that number right here. And then for 2G, it's saying, okay, after that, add lines 2C and 2F together. So 2F and 2C are added together, and then we get this number right here. So again, we're getting closer and closer to the answer as we go. And now 2H is saying divide this number by the number of pay periods up above, which is just happens to be 26. So that's 26 pay periods. We're left with $83.09. Typically, when you get this answer, this is the last one that you need, unless for any reason the employee is saying, I'm claiming more deductions, like I need you to take more money out of this. Well, not more deductions, excuse me, but more like I need you to take more out of my paycheck. So I'm asking you to pull additional. And normally we'll see that with highly compensated employees. They'll come in there and they'll say, hey, take an extra $300 every check because I make so much that the taxes don't pull enough. So they request to have more taken from it. But in this case, I'm just assuming she did not do that, because most people that I've met who are servers, they typically are trying their best not to have too many taxes taken out, because again, they don't go home with too much to begin with. So I understand. So just kind of making this simple, $83.09 is basically what that person is going to have come out with federal income taxes with a check that's this size. So I want to kind of back you through a couple of things. So Social Security and Medicare are federally required. So they cannot be skipped. In other words, if you were paid a paycheck, every single time you're paid, Medicare and Social Security have to come out no matter what. That's going to come out of your paycheck no matter if you like it or not. Federal income taxes, it really depends. If you don't make enough, you might not have any taxes taken, because clearly by these percentage tables that I was just showing you, if you make less than these numbers right here, it's very possible you're not going to have any taxes come out. So you have to look at what that person's filing to kind of get an idea that, okay, if their wages are less than this in the range that we're calculating, chances are they're not going to have any federal income taxes withheld. And that does happen sometimes. But basically what we did is we took those total amount of wages over here and we basically multiplied it by or should we call it 0.062. So Social Security taxes are 6.2% of your paycheck. Every time, no matter what, 6.2% of your check goes to Social Security. So if you're curious what that is, Social Security is known as the old age surviving and disability insurance. It's paid out to folks who have paid into the system, and just because they hit a certain age, they can take out money, which is called a Social Security benefit. You've probably heard that before. That's paid for old age surviving spouses. When somebody passes away, like a spouse that was receiving Social Security, there will be a payout to the beneficiary. And then, of course, there's also disability insurance. So, folks who are disabled can file for government assistance and, of course, get Social Security payments. So we can calculate that pretty simple by just taking this percentage and multiplying it by the total amount of wages over here to get the amount listed right there. Medicare is, of course, Medicare. You've probably heard of Medicare before, because it's a health insurance benefit that's given to folks who are over a certain age. So this is actually us as Americans paying for that health insurance plan for older Americans. So 0.0145. So it's 1.45%. That's basically what the percentage would be. But we're getting that dollar amount pretty easily. And then, of course, our federal income tax is being pulled directly from federal income tax. When you look at this, the total amount of taxes are $177.86. So I want you to notice something. See how much her wages are? $170.40. That was her cash wages. So that's the 213 an hour that we talked about at the very beginning of this, you can call it video. At the very beginning of this video, we said the premise of this is the employer is only paying $2.13 an hour for every hour this person works. If they make enough in tips, the employer won't have to pay over 213 an hour. They can continue paying 213 an hour all the way through. But when you look at this, the tips actually were high enough to where it actually brought this person up to minimum wage. Because if we said, hey, did this person earn minimum wage? We can take the number of this and divide it by the hours that person worked. And as long as it comes out to above 725 an hour, that person is actually in the clear. So the employer doesn't have to make up any sort of wages. So let's say if a person who's working as a server at a restaurant and receives no tips all day, well, that employer is basically going to have to make up and pay that person the full 725 an hour for all the hours that they worked, he or she. So that's mandatory. There's no way around that. So to kind of get it simple and break it down even easier, you could see right here that the total taxes are 177.86. Now, the cash tips, this is the part I want to kind of bring to your attention. So you're probably saying, what exactly is this amount going to do? Well, look at it like this. If this employee that posted this video on TikTok for us to be able to diagnose and break this down, and hence the meaning of this video, you can clearly see that cash tips means that I got that money and it's in my possession. If I'm a bartender or a server and I am serving you or giving you drinks or bringing your food to your table, and you give me money, i.e. cash, you hand me a $10 bill and say, thank you for your service, I appreciate it. Well, when you give me that money, that's considered cash tips and that's in my possession. So I actually get to keep that. However, at the end of the night, I have to tally up that $10 with the rest of the cash tips I got and tell my employer that, okay, I got $50 in tips tonight in cash, and then credit card tips, I got maybe 60. So I have to give all that information back to my employer. And my employer, therefore, has to put that into their system and pay me out for those wages accordingly. But the truth is, because I've been paid the cash already, I'm already paid that money. However, the trick is you have to pay taxes on the cash that you receive. So here's the thing. I believe this young lady is getting confused about what she was actually receiving in wages, because she clearly said, y'all need to, I'm just going to go back to what she said. I don't want to paraphrase for her because I like to use proof here. So she basically said, in her video, if we go pull it up again and just look at it, we can clearly see that she's saying, tip your servers. So I want to be transparent with you here and just kind of talk you through this so there's no assumptions being made. Now, I have to make assumptions in this video, and I don't mean to do that to affect this young girl, but I just want to be honest with you that, when I read stuff like this, it's important that you understand that there are ways to figure this out for yourself without assuming that, okay, she's just been underpaid and she's being mistreated. If she's being mistreated, she can give us information and we can actually help her. Like, that's one of the things I am happy to do. I like looking at this stuff. It makes sense to me. But making generalizations is not always the best medicine for fixing a problem. But in this case, I have to, because she didn't provide us hours or amount of tips that she made, credit card or cash tips. She didn't tell us any of those things. So I want to just be transparent with you. If she earned this much in cash tips, that means it's in her possession, but she actually has to be taxed on that, because even though that money's in your pocket, you still have to be taxed on it from the government. If you're paid any type of wages, the government wants to take a piece of it. It doesn't matter how you earned it, as long as it's considered cash equivalents, gift cards, anything like that, it's considered taxable income. So you have to claim it and you have to be taxed on it. So here's the thing. If she earned $170.40, that's $213 an hour for 80 hours. So I'm making an assumption here that she worked 80 hours and that she got over $1,000 in tips, which is, average $106 a night or a day for every shift, which is probably not awesome, but it's enough to get by, right? Well, if you take that, her total taxes were $177.86. Well, that would leave her with negative net wages. Net wages is what's left over after all taxes and deductions. So I'm assuming here that she's working for a restaurant, and that restaurant's not giving her health, dental, and vision insurance or 401k. So I'm automatically making those assumptions. So to keep this simple for you, looking at this, you'll notice that like she's in the negative. Well, an employer can't take money away from you. That's not how this works. So if you end up with a negative net wages, that basically means that a check stub like this that says $0, that's going to happen. Like $0 will happen when your cash tips are higher than your wages that you're actually paid. That will happen. So we can see legitimately that this would have been a zero check. So it's very possible that she earned even more than this. But again, that's hard to tell because we don't have any proof in front of us. But even if I came over here and I dropped her cash tips even further, so if I just kind of drop this number a little bit, like maybe dropped it to, I don't know, let's go maybe 6 and just kind of mess with the numbers a little bit. I like to finesse the numbers a little bit to get them a little bit even if I can. So I'll just say 1200. So see, we're getting closer to -1 cent, but I'm just going to keep working it just to show you it is possible for this person to get close. So see, now we're in the positive. So I can take a little bit more. So I'm going to go back up to 200, but I'm going to take it to like 201. So see, now we're almost there. So I'm going to go the other direction. We'll do 1200, 18 cents. So it's not too far off. So I will do, so I'm only a few cents off. So I'm going to back this up to say 100, and we'll just say like 89 cents. And look, there's $0 net wages right there. If her tips are this, or if her tips end up being this much and her total wages end up being that much, you can tell clearly that she's almost at that spot. So let me do one more. I'm going to drop it down 1 penny. And I'll keep finessing it till I can get a -1 or a 1, excuse me. So look at that. I was able to prove to you that it is possible for a person to get a 1 cent paycheck, yet still get paid minimum wage, because look, she's averaging $15.01 per hour with her working hours. So if she worked 80 hours and got this much in cash tips or even credit card tips, you can think of it that way too. It is possible that this person's paycheck would be this small. Now let's kind of discuss the difference between credit card tips and cash tips. Cash tips are things that are already retained by the employee. So the employer is not going to pay them again. So believe it or not, they might have been paid this much in wages according to the paycheck stub. However, they call it in out, because what happens is they put the tips in there to say, well, okay, she had this much in cash tips. We need to include that in this number for tax purposes only. As soon as they figure out the taxes for federal income tax and Social Security and Medicare, they do what's called, they take it out. So it's an in out code. So they literally put it in there just for taxes, and then they pull it right back out after taxes have been taken. So in technicality, yes, she may have earned this much according to the paycheck stub, but she has in her possession this much money in cash tips. I myself do charge tips because I typically never have cash on me. So, maybe she works at a high-end restaurant where they tip a lot in cash. So the truth is this, it's very possible for a person to get a 1 cent paycheck if their cash tips are higher than the wages that they actually earned, like the cash wages. So in this case, I'm just here to debunk this, to say that yes, she did get tipped. It's very plausible that she did get tips. And there may be times where she could have gotten more. So I don't want to say that she's not earning enough, because again, I think everybody's due wages, and I think people work really hard. So I don't want to say that she's not working hard and she's not getting enough. I don't want to say that, but I know for sure that a person always deserves to make more. But just in simplicity, I just wanted to tell you that, this video, when I look at a video like this, I just want to tell the truth about the video. I don't, and I've made a lot of assumptions here, so I could be completely off. But the truth is this, it is possible for a person to go home with a 1 cent paycheck, because the cash tips they earned were much higher than the wages that they earned. So I just wanted to kind of take some time to explain this to you and also introduce myself. If you like what you see, hit the like button on the video, subscribe to videos. I'm going to try and post more of these if I come across anything like this. I just want to be able to explain things to you in a simple to understand manner. And if you're a payroll professional, it's a good thing to look at because sometimes people will make claims and you need to find a way to find a solution to it. And I do this a lot, so this is actually fun for me. So again, thank you all so much for watching. And again, hit the like button and subscribe if you like the videos. And again, I'll be posting more in the future. Y'all take care now.